There is a forgotten food growing quietly across much of eastern North America, climbing along riverbanks, woodland edges, and old fence lines. It is not a rare exotic plant. It is native. For thousands of years, indigenous communities harvested it, cultivated it, and understood exactly what it could provide. The plant is Apios americana, commonly called American groundnut, hopunus, or potato bean. Underground, it forms chains of edible tubers, each one packed with far more protein than an ordinary potato. Above ground, it grows as a perennial vine, returning year after year and enriching the soil by fixing nitrogen. Long before modern agriculture, this plant was part of a highly resilient food system. It supported indigenous communities, complemented crops such as corn and squash, and later helped European settlers survive when their own food supplies failed. In the early 1600s, colonists in northeastern North America learned to dig and prepare these tubers from native people who had relied on them for generations. At Plymouth, where the first winter was devastating and food was dangerously scarce, groundnuts became part of the emergency food supply. And yet this story did not lead to celebration or widespread cultivation. Instead, the plant gradually disappeared from American tables. That is what makes Apios americana so extraordinary. A crop that once helped people survive eventually became nearly invisible in the very land where it had always grown. Its disappearance reveals a deeper story about food, power, and memory. Long before European settlement, American groundnut was already woven into indigenous food systems across eastern North America. Archaeological patterns show dense concentrations of the vine near former settlements, suggesting that its presence was not simply accidental. Communities such as the Shawnee incorporated it into mixed gardens alongside corn and squash, taking advantage of a plant that could produce food while also fixing nitrogen in the soil. That combination made groundnut unusually valuable. Its vines climbed upward rather than competing heavily for ground space, while its underground tubers formed in chains and could be harvested as a dependable source of starch and protein. In a diversified garden, it was not just another edible plant. It was part of a system designed for resilience. European newcomers quickly discovered how important that knowledge could be. In 1613, French colonists at Port Royal ate the tubers during a difficult winter. A few years later, the Pilgrims at Plymouth faced an even more severe crisis. Their first winter was brutal. Food stores were limited, and roughly half the colony died. The survivors depended heavily on knowledge shared by the Wampanoag, including where local foods could be found and how they could be prepared. Plymouth records indicate that corn supplies were sometimes scarce, so colonists supplemented their diet with wild and cultivated foods gathered from the surrounding landscape, including groundnuts. That means this humble tuber was more than a curiosity. At a moment when imported food systems had failed, indigenous knowledge of a native perennial helped make survival possible. And soon, the people who had taught that knowledge would face restrictions on harvesting the same plant. As groundnuts became more valuable to colonial survival, control over the plant began to change. In 1654, a local ordinance declared that an indigenous person caught digging groundnuts on land claimed by English settlers could be placed in the public stocks. A second offense could bring whipping. The same communities that had shown settlers where the tubers grew and how to prepare them were now being restricted from harvesting a food that had long been part of their own landscape and food traditions. The contradiction is difficult to ignore. Indigenous knowledge had helped colonists survive, but as colonial land claims expanded, access to that same resource became increasingly controlled. Groundnut did not disappear immediately. Through the 1700s, settlers still ate it under names such as Indian potato, potato bean, and groundnut. The tubers were boiled, roasted, fried, or dried and ground into flour. They were practical, nutritious, and already well adapted to local conditions. But the food culture around them gradually changed. As European potatoes became more common and agriculture shifted towards standardized commercial crops, groundnut began to lose its place on American tables. Its association with indigenous foodways and with survival during hardship may also have contributed to its declining status. By the 19th century, even attempts to introduce Apios americana as an alternative crop in Europe struggled. Its perennial growth, underground chains of tubers, and slower development did not fit easily into emerging systems of mechanized monoculture. A food once valued because it survived outside those systems was now being judged by how well it could conform to them. By the 20th century, American groundnut had largely disappeared from mainstream agriculture. Then, in the mid-1980s, researchers at Louisiana State University decided to see whether the plant could be transformed into a modern commercial crop. The project was ambitious. Scientists wanted larger tubers, tighter underground clusters, faster production, and plants that could perform reliably without requiring elaborate support systems. Their goal was not simply to preserve a wild species. They wanted to domesticate it. Researchers led by Dr. William Blackman and Dr. Berthal Reynolds collected wild material from across the United States. By 1988, the program had gathered seeds and tubers from more than 200 plants representing 19 states. From that genetic material, the team created thousands of hybrid lines and began comparing them under different growing conditions. The results were promising. Several genotypes produced impressive yields, with some plants generating more than 3 pounds of tubers. One selection, known as LA85-034, attracted particular attention because of its productivity and potential for further improvement. For a moment, it appeared that a nearly forgotten native food might finally return as a serious crop, but the momentum did not last. The breeding work continued into the 1990s until funding was withdrawn and Dr. Blackman retired. The program ended before its most promising varieties could be officially released on a large commercial scale. Some genetic material survived through researchers, small growers, and later preservation efforts. But the institutional push disappeared. After years of collecting, testing, and breeding, America had come remarkably close to bringing groundnut back. Then the project simply stopped. While American groundnut faded from mainstream agriculture in its native range, another country recognized its potential. During Japan's Meiji era, between 1868 and 1912, Apios americana was introduced from North America. The Japanese already knew a related native plant, sometimes used as an emergency food, so the newcomer was not completely unfamiliar. But instead of dismissing it as an awkward vine or an outdated survival crop, growers began adapting it to local agriculture. In Japan, the plant became known as Hodo Imo, or simply Apios. Over time, it developed a small but real commercial presence. Farmers cultivated the tubers, grocery stores sold them, and restaurants incorporated them into regional dishes. That contrast is striking. In North America, where the species evolved and had been used for generations, groundnut became increasingly obscure. In Japan, it was treated as a specialty crop worth preserving, improving, and selling. The plant even entered local tradition. In Aomori Prefecture, one story tells of a mother giving her daughter small tubers on her wedding day and advising her to plant them near the garden fence. The idea was practical. When pregnancy or exhaustion made other farming difficult, the vines could still provide nourishing food with relatively little effort. Whether remembered as tradition, emergency food, or delicacy, Japan found a place for groundnut in everyday agriculture. America largely did not. Its survival there shows that the crop was never inherently impossible to commercialize. And that raises an obvious question. What exactly made this overlooked tuber worth keeping? Groundnut becomes even more remarkable when we look inside the tuber itself. Unlike most familiar root crops, Apios americana is unusually rich in protein. Analyses vary depending on cultivar and preparation, but studies consistently describe its tubers as containing substantially more protein than common potatoes on a dry weight basis. They also provide starch, dietary fiber, iron, calcium, and other minerals. Researchers have found another intriguing feature. Apios tubers contain isoflavones, including genistein and related compounds. These molecules have attracted scientific interest because of their antioxidant and other biological activities. But this is where careful wording matters. Laboratory and animal studies have reported potentially beneficial effects involving blood pressure, glucose metabolism, inflammation, and oxidative stress. Those findings are promising, but they do not prove that eating groundnut prevents or treats cancer, diabetes, hypertension, or any other disease in humans. As food, however, its value is much easier to appreciate. The tubers have a mildly sweet, nutty flavor and can be boiled, steamed, baked, roasted, fried, or mashed. They can also be dried and milled into flour, creating a versatile source of calories and protein from a perennial plant. There is one important caution. Apios tubers contain biologically active proteins, including protease inhibitors and lectins. Traditional and modern preparation therefore favors cooking rather than eating the tubers raw. Anyone trying an unfamiliar wild food should also begin with a small portion and make certain the plant has been identified correctly. So groundnut should not be treated as a miracle medicine. Its real story is already impressive enough. A native tuber with unusual nutritional density, useful culinary qualities, and compounds that researchers are still investigating. And when those traits are combined with the way the plant grows, the question becomes even more interesting. Why did agriculture leave it behind, especially when it can return year after year without replanting? What makes groundnut especially interesting today is not just its nutrition, but the way it grows. Apios americana is a perennial legume. Once established, it can return year after year from underground tubers and rhizomes. Like other legumes, it forms relationships with nitrogen-fixing bacteria, allowing the plant to obtain nitrogen without depending on the same level of external fertilizer required by many major crops. It also uses vertical space. The vines climb fences, shrubs, and trellises, while the edible tubers develop underground. Groundnut can tolerate partial shade and moist soils, and established plants can survive across a broad range of climates. Those qualities sound ideal for resilient gardens and diversified farming systems, but they can also create problems for modern large-scale agriculture. A perennial vine producing interconnected underground tubers is harder to harvest mechanically than a uniform annual crop planted in straight rows. Tubers can vary in size and maturity. Vines require management, and commercial growers need consistent yields, predictable harvest dates, and processing systems that can operate efficiently at scale. So the disappearance of groundnut does not require a conspiracy to explain it. Agricultural systems tend to favor crops that are easy to standardize, mechanize, transport, and sell through existing supply chains. Groundnut simply developed outside that model. Still, it has never vanished completely. Researchers continue preserving genetic material, while small seed companies, permaculture growers, and independent plant breeders maintain selected lines. Some growers are still working to improve tuber size, productivity, and single-season performance. That grassroots preservation matters, because as fertilizer prices, soil degradation, and climate pressures push farmers to reconsider how food is produced, perennial crops are attracting new attention. Groundnut may never replace potatoes, corn, or soybeans. But perhaps that was never the point. Its real value may be as part of a more diverse food system, where resilience matters just as much as efficiency. Groundnut is still here. It continues to grow along riverbanks, woodland margins, and damp fields across much of eastern North America. It climbs fences, spreads through underground rhizomes, fixes nitrogen, and produces edible tubers with surprisingly little attention. That persistence may be the most powerful part of its story. Apios americana survived centuries of cultural change. It remained after indigenous food systems were disrupted, after colonial land laws restricted access to traditional harvesting grounds, after European crops became dominant, and after modern agriculture largely ignored it. It even survived the collapse of the Louisiana State University breeding program. Today, researchers, seed savers, independent breeders, and small growers are keeping selected lines alive. Their work does not prove that groundnut will become the next major commercial crop, but it does prove something else. Valuable foods can disappear from mainstream agriculture without disappearing from the landscape itself. The lesson is bigger than one plant. Food systems are shaped not only by nutrition or productivity, but also by history, culture, machinery, markets, and the crops society chooses to invest in. Sometimes a plant is forgotten, not because it failed, but because the system around it changed. Now, as farmers search for crops that can tolerate environmental stress, reduce fertilizer dependence, and contribute to more diverse agricultural systems, groundnut deserves another look. For thousands of years, people already knew what this plant could do. Perhaps the future of Apios americana does not require reinventing it. Perhaps it only requires remembering it. If stories like this help recover forgotten agricultural knowledge, subscribe to Botanical Vault and turn on notifications. The next vault opens soon.